you're about to see takes less than 30 minutes. Doctors, mainstream and alternative, tell us that what you're about to see may add more than 40 years to your life. So staying tuned may be a very healthy exercise. We've had medical books since the days of ancient Egypt, but not since then have we had a book so uniquely able to add years to your life, healthy years, happy years, zestful years. We haven't had a book as able to do that as this one. Arthur P. Johnson is a medical writer, medical reporter, and an editor of this revolution. Arthur, why is the world's greatest treasury of health secrets not just a good medical book, not just a great medical book? Why is it a revolution?
Let me give you a personal example of why it's a revolution for a friend of mine. A friend of mine, an editor at Bottom Line, saved his father from a very serious stroke because he happened to have a copy of this book on his desk. Now, the amazing thing was that his father had already had the stroke, but because my friend happened to have a copy of this book on his desk, he knew about a breakthrough that can bring your brain back and prevent any permanent damage, any death of brain cells, even after you've had the stroke. And because he had this book, my friend's father is alive and happy and well and enjoying life today. This book was brought together by the greatest medical team ever assembled. And I say this because never before have so many great doctors from alternative medicine and from mainstream medicine come together and started pulling on the same team.
I'm imagining as you speak a climactic scene from a movie where people with half the answer are on this side of the wall and people with the other half of an answer are on this side of the wall, and all of a sudden a hero breaks down the wall and the forces come together, mainstream medicine and alternative medicine, to save our lives.
I'll tell you, the doctors were the heroic ones here, because it's absolutely true that there is a wall running right down the center of medicine. On the one hand, you've got the mainstream interests. On the other hand, you've got the alternative interests. The drug companies want to sell their most expensive products. The supplement companies want to sell their most expensive products, and they're creating a global turf war. And the doctors are separated from each other. But the doctors for this particular project, and there are more than 450 top doctors and scientists on this project, the doctors for this project come from both sides of the wall, and they accepted no money. They didn't want any money for what they did on this project, because they knew that getting the information out to our friends who are listening to this show is more important, far more important.
And Bottom Line Health doesn't care. It just wants us to get well and to get these life-lifting, life-saving secrets.
Bottom Line Health publishes newsletters, but we accept no advertising from drug companies. We accept no advertising from supplement companies. We accept no advertising, period. We have no dog in that fight. We want to make our readers well, period.
World's greatest treasury of health secrets! Oh. Bold claim. All right, let's see what the heck we got going on over here. What are we shilling today, people? Well, did you know that the medical industry is hiding actual secrets from people because they don't want you to know them, because then you might feel better, and they don't want that. It's a conspiracy. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But don't worry, these secrets are easily findable in the world's greatest treasury of health secrets. A book that had at least 2 editions, one in 2004 and one in 2006. The 2006 version had a few things added, but nothing too special, and both had 2 different infomercials, though I could not actually find the 2006 one. I've run into that recently. Some of these early infomercials actually haven't been archived. They appear to be lost media. There's a few that I'd love to talk about, that I'm just not able to. For example, there was one I really wanted to discuss called the 7-Day Miracle Cleanse, which was also marketed in the early 2000s, and they got in serious trouble because they were making false claims about cleanses, like how it could, stop cancer and ridiculous things. And I don't even know if the FDA really succeeded in stopping the cleanse trend in general, because anytime I went to search for the 7-Day Miracle Cleanse, which is literally what it was called, all I got is hundreds of results of different YouTube channels showing off, oh, this is my cleanse, or this is my cleanse, and you just gotta cleanse yourself of all those toxins in your system, and that'll make you feel all better. When in reality, this isn't normal, people. You realize that the toxin thing has been long proven to be a complete and total falsehood. I mean, yeah, sometimes you do intake things that you shouldn't, things that have to be, taken out. But those are taken out by things like your kidneys and your liver. The body does that on its own. A cleanse might help you with weight loss, but only because you're basically hardly taking in any calories. So a simple low-calorie diet would also get the same result. Really, it's dumb. And I need you to know it's dumb. But we're not talking about a cleanse today. We're talking about the world's greatest I'm sorry, I'll stop saying it that way. The thing about this particular book, well, the scam here isn't so much that it contains wrong information. A lot of it, arguably most of it, is verifiable truths when it comes to personal health. Now, some of it is pseudoscience and wrong, but a lot of it isn't. It's basically a collection of different articles. Some are only a single sentence, so I really hesitate to even refer to that as an article. But it's a collection of different stuff that can be used to help you feel better, the different things you might not know. And in that way, you might argue that it's harmless, but the thing is, the marketing here is a scam, because it hinges on the notion that these are secrets that are being kept from the general public. But if you buy this book, you'll get those secrets, and you'll know things. You'll know more than actual doctors who went to school for years and years to get doctorates. They don't know what the heck they're talking about, but you, normal person, you have this magical book, and now you know the secrets. When in reality, not only is none of the information in the book a secret, none of it. It's all commonly known things that are easily findable, especially in the modern internet age, or things you could simply ask a doctor about and they'd be happy to tell you. But also, a lot of it is straight up plagiarized. The infomercial I was able to find on this features an interview with a person named Arthur P. Johnson, who is alleged to be the book's editor. His name appears nowhere on the book, and as far as I'm able to tell, he was actually the head of the marketing firm responsible for this ad. So he had really nothing to do with the book. And the host is Barry Farber, who was an actual radio talk show host, but in this context, he's really there just to pretend. And it's set up in a very, very Trudeau way, where it's pretending to be some kind of late-night talk show where they're talking about this book and these secrets. Oh my god, you just gotta buy it. Buy the book, people, and you'll get all the secrets, the magical secrets. Super wonderful, awesome secrets that you need to know, and also know. I mean, one of the things he mentions is a vaccine that helps with cancer. And that sounds like it might be pseudoscience, but what he's actually referencing is something that has been looked into. Because vaccine is kind of a vague term. There's a lot of different kinds of things that can be called vaccines. But in this context, it's plasmids, which are small extrachromosomal DNA molecules, normally located within a cell, that are physically separated from chromosomal DNA, and can therefore replicate independently. The use of plasmids has been looked into as a potential protective vaccine strategy for cancer and infectious diseases. But what he fails to mention, despite the fact that this alleged thing exists and that you could use it to, stop cancer, and they're hiding the vaccine for cancer. No. See, while it has been tested and proven effective in laboratory animals like mice, human trials haven't really gone super well. In all those cases, it's failed to provide any clinically relevant benefits over other alternatives to stopping cancer. So really, yeah, it's something that has been looked into, but it's not something that's currently relevant. And that's now, let alone back then. The point here is that he's being intentionally misleading, And that's basically all he does, is point out, oh, we got these remedies, oh, this stuff, it'll help stop Alzheimer's, it'll help stop arthritis, it'll help with all this other stuff, and even cancer. And they got away with it because a lot of what's in the book is the truth, but he over-exaggerates how helpful it honestly is, or how relevant it is going to be to the normal person. Again, all the information in the book is easily findable in other places, or by simply asking a medical professional, unless you're talking about the pseudoscience nonsense, which we're going to just ignore for the most part. Okay, I guess I'll bring up some of that. It actually involves one of the 2 Nobel Prize winners featured in the book. Yeah, there's 2 Nobel Prize winners in this book, or at least the articles that they wrote. One of them is Louis Ignarro, a pharmacologist who, in the book, states that his health secret is a tiny molecule that has enormous life-saving potential. That's really vague and unhelpful. Thank you so much for that, Louis. What he is referring to here is what he won his Nobel Prize for in 1998, along with 2 others. He did solid work in the field of nitric oxide. They managed to figure out that nitric oxide is an important chemical mediator that regulates various physiological functions within the body. It's actually pretty important for us. But first of all, that's not a secret. He literally won a Nobel Prize for it, which in terms of keeping a medical secret is the equivalent to sounding an air raid siren over the lost Ark of the Covenant, you know? Like, this is not... That's not how you make this a secret, okay? And he gets a bit bolder with his claims in terms of how relevant it is, though. He says that boosting nitric oxide levels within the body using herbal supplements prevents things like heart disease and stroke. There is absolutely zero scientific evidence to support that. He has not been able to prove that at all. And for a while, he just used the fact that he won the prize for commercial gain. Granted, he's allowed to do that, but he was peddling a lot of claims about nitric oxide that simply weren't true, that even he couldn't verify. So, yeah, not really, no, not working for me over here, Lewis, I'm sorry. The other Nobel Prize winner is Barry Marshall, who received his in 2005 for the discovery that most peptic ulcers were actually caused by bacterial stomach infections, which is super relevant, because that meant they could be treated with antibiotics and not surgery. Obviously, the second thing is way more invasive, expensive, and risky, when simply taking a few pills is rather simple. The claim in the ad is made that Marshall was scoffed by the medical establishment who didn't believe him, but that's actually not actually true at all. And his original article was published all the way back in 1984. Again, it's not a secret. If you go to a doctor with peptic ulcers, they're gonna give you antibiotics. That's pretty normal. The surgery is a very last resort option if the antibiotics don't work or something. And even then, they'd probably give you a few stronger antibiotics before any surgery is even remotely considered these days. It's not a secret. It's not. Plus, I mentioned plagiarism. A ton of the text within the book is taken directly from other publications by the publisher of said book, Bottom Line Health. Bottom Line Health also is not considered a very safe source for proper medical information in general. They have a lot of pseudoscience on there. Anything for clicks or readers or anything like that. Do not trust them. And you could argue that, is it really plagiarism if you're plagiarizing yourself? And I guess not, but not everything in there was taken directly from stuff they already published. Some of it is from other sources, and not really altered in any distinctive way. Johnson also points out that the authors of all these articles weren't paid anything for their contributions. They were doing it because they were so nice. When in reality, I'm actually somewhat partially confident that they might just not have paid them because they didn't tell them they were putting their stuff in the book. That seems to be more in line with what actually happened here, but that's alleged. I can't prove that. That's what I'm thinking, though. And even the book, based on people who've actually looked at it, is really awful in terms of layout. Any kind of medical text, or any kind of research text at all, usually is organized in some way, so you can find what you're actually looking for relatively easily. But in the world's greatest treasury of health secrets, the organizational pattern is not at all great in any way. There is none. Basically, they just copy and pasted everything into the book, in no particular order. There are 26 chapters, but those chapters aren't really relevant. And the number of articles per chapter ranges from as few as 13 to as many as 67. Said chapters are named things like Best of Bests, Everyday Remedies, and Heart Matters, which is not really helpful when it comes to finding specific conditions. There are different ways to lay out a medical text that are way more organized. You have things like an index, or heck, just put it in alphabetical order. Anything, but no, that's not what they did here. It doesn't even have the proper references for a scientific book. Probably because it really isn't scientific. It's just throwing fluff at you without actually explaining why any of it works or anything really helpful. Plus, even in the ad, Johnson says, hey, if you see something in the book, go ask your doctor about it. Like, really? So, basically, your big advice isn't even to read the book. It's just go ask your doctor. So why should I buy your book in the first place? Do you see the problem here? And at the end of the day, the pitch itself is the scam. Like I said, the book technically, mostly contains actual, legitimate information. It's not very specific, it's not very helpful, but it is legitimate. Hence, they couldn't get in trouble with the FDA, because what they were actually putting in the book was technically true, mixed in with some pseudoscience, but it would have been so minor that it wasn't worth the FDA's time. However, the pitch is that these are secrets. Secrets kept from you, gentle viewer, that the medical industry, big pharma, doesn't want you to know. They don't want you to know. It's Trudeau all over again. But the reality was simply that it was all information you could find plenty of other places. You didn't have to buy this stupid, badly put together book. But plenty did. You can even find it now. It's available on many different websites. I strongly recommend not getting it, because you could easily find every single thing in there online without paying anything. Or alternatively, if you are dealing with a major health ailment, don't take my advice at all, because I am not a medical health professional. You should see a doctor about anything associated with that. If you're worried about arthritis, if you're worried about Alzheimer's, if you're worried about cancer or anything of that nature, see an actual doctor. And don't buy health secrets off of an infomercial. Granted, this was back in 2006, so I doubt they're doing it anymore. I couldn't find any information because the book itself is long out of print. Any place that is selling it is secondhand. So, I'm pretty sure they made their money, and we're like, okay, we're not going to do that again, because the more we do it, the more the FDA is going to be like, excuse me, sirs and or ma'ams, what are you doing? And then they get in trouble and have to pay all the money back in fines. And they didn't want to do that. They just ran off with it, as one does. So, yeah. That's neat. Till next time. This is Darkness, and I bid you all a fun farewell.